Welcome to the latest edition of the Showbox Sires series, The Evolution of the Great Cow, where we talk about the breeding of great cows, the development of great cows, and certainly the people behind them. Each bull that we introduce at Showbox Sires has a unique story. And one thing that Mike and I are enjoying about our program is we're getting the people that have produced these bulls and produced these great cows to talk to us and our listeners about how to use the bulls and where the cows come from. Today, we're going to talk about our next release bull, which we're very excited about, 744 HO 17546 ASHER Red. ASHER Red comes to us from the great state of Wisconsin and one of the true great breeding herds that state has seen, Hilrose Dairy, owned by the Brantmeier family. For many years, we've gotten to know this cow family and these fine people. I'll tell anybody that one of my most favorite herd visits that I've done in the past few years was my time at Brantmeier's at Hilrose with Joe, walking through the cows and hearing about the stories. So our guest today, as always, Mike Duckett, my partner in Showbox Sires, and from Hilrose Holsteins, Joe Brantmeier. So Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So as we get going, we're going to ask Joe a few questions about the family behind ASHER, and I'm going to let Mike lead us away.
Tim said it's always a pleasure to bring breeders of bulls that we choose to bring into our program. We're always excited to have them on a podcast and just talk to them about the cow families that are behind these great cows and where they all came from. And as Tim said, when you take a visit to Hilrose and you walk through those barns, they're cows that this family's made a living milking for years and years and generations. And that's what excites us about this bull. He comes from a cow that's a one-name cow that everybody in the world knows. He's been a cow that is exactly what we're looking for in a bull. The longevity and using genomics and stuff that which amazes us at how this cow's just keeps breeding generation after generation. Joe, could you tell us how you got involved in this cow family and kind of how it all got started? I mean, it goes back lots of generations.
You know what really happened? Willis Gunst, one of our Holstein classifiers, owned the fourth dam. She was a red Kingley leader, and Willis's was milking cows at that time at his father-in-law's place in Manitowoc County, just to the east of me. Well, they flushed this Kingley leader to Reagan Crest Emery Dairy and had a phenomenal flush. And Willis was just traveling through, and we had known him, through classifying and such. And he offered me to buy some embryos, which I did. We bought 10 dairy embryos, and in those days was not sex semen. So we ended up with 2 daughters out of that 10 embryo purchase. Grandma of Anna was one of those. And then we bred her to Rubens, and we bred the Rubens to Advent. And that's how Anna came about. And the leader was really, at that point, many years ago, the Reds weren't like they were today. There weren't very many of them. And we kind of thought that was a direction we wanted to go. And she was quite in fact, Anna reminds me a lot of that cow, very silky and dairy. So that's how we started with Anna.
Yeah, and as you look through that pedigree, it's generation after generation, great bulls. And it seems, Advent, Rubens, Dairy, Leader, Enhancer, and Triple Threat, they all kind of complement each other in their own way. And just a nice mix of modern bulls. And then you get to Advent Anna. And if you would, Joe, tell us a little bit, is Anna, I don't know exactly how old she is, but she'd have to be getting up there. Is she still?
She's 14 and still, not quite like in her heyday, but we're still getting good IVF embryos from her. She looks great. At this point, we don't milk her anymore, but up until about a year ago, she was still milking, and cow looks good. She's healthy. And the good news about Anna, cow at that age, her feet and legs have held up extremely well.
Certainly, when they get up to that age, it just tells you the breeding behind her and the longevity that's truly special, because that's not something that we see every day. Is when you walk into a barn and see a cow that's that age and still can get around and move and be a functional cow. And we all know she's 95 points, lifetime totals. Do you know all that, Joe?
Yeah, actually, I've got it right here. She's upwards above 350,000. And one of my daughter-in-laws looked that up, and we think she's the second highest lifetime red cow in the breed. And you know what's amazing about that? Some of the things we like so much about the family, it's not that she peaks so extremely high every year, but very, very consistent production and bred back every year. So she milked, never had a long dry period in any of those years, bred back consistently, and was just such a fertile cow. And of course, we've worked with many generations of them. And one of the reasons why the family grew for us is because they bred back.
That's another thing that's special. Obviously, the cow makes a lot of embryos, and the red cows have come a long way, but it probably wasn't that many years ago. It'd take 4 or 5 cows to make 360,000 in a lifetime. So it makes her a really unique cow. And, you know, it doesn't matter how good a cow is. If she doesn't make embryos or if she doesn't make milk, it really does. It takes away that opportunity to make money with a great cow.
You know, exactly, Mike. We were so fortunate because she did both. And the nice thing about it, like I said, transmitted on to her offspring. And the other thing, not only did she make that amount of milk, she was really, really a modern cow in that she was very high components from right early on. She always was up in that 4.5, 4.7 butter fat and 3.4 protein or in excess of that. So as time went on, we always had cows that milked pretty well, and we didn't treat her family any different. They had to compete against the black and whites or they would not have stayed here. All of her daughters and granddaughters and great granddaughters milked right along with some of the best black and white genetics that we had.
So, you know, we've done quite a few of these podcasts now, and we've talked to breeders about other great cows, and it seems they all have a bit of a personality. What was it like to work with Anna? Was she a tough old rascal or?
Well, you know, Mike, exactly. She was a very, very easy cow to work with, but she didn't want to be messed with. She just kind of like, leave me alone. I want to stand in the stall. Don't do anything special for me. And just was easy going, but yet out at the bunk, she kind of had her way, and nobody better come near her. But never, ever an issue with anything as far as being hard to work with. Just a really, really easygoing cow.
She's proved herself to be an incredible brood cow. And out of all the crosses you've done on her, what is some of your favorite crosses that you've used on Anna?
Well, you know, early on, we had done her to a few different bulls, and we had done her to barbed wire, which turned out to be an excellent daughter. Destry worked pretty well on her. But when we heard of this altitude bull come along, it was just something that seemed a little more modern genetics. And we flushed her that time, and we got 2 March calves. That was the year when my son and grandson went down to Circleville. And those 2 calves did extremely, that must have been because of the COVID, correct? That the show was down there. And the 2 calves did very well, and kind of, other than her own showing at Expo, that's kind of what started it all. People noticed that those 2 calves really did well. And it turned out that one of them was Audie, that turned into a 92-point cow, and the other one is Arrow, that now is 91. I think the thing that Chad Ryan said that to us, that what he thought what really made a difference with Anna is they had such long dairy head and neck, very feminine looking, which some of the red breed isn't always that way. They were really good milk cows, clean bone cows, and not monstrously tall, wide cows with really good udders. And both of those altitudes calved in, and both of them are scored excellent in the mammary and continue that really, really good production and high components.
Well, you know, it's kind of neat too. In altitude, if you follow that pedigree back, that's quite a impressive cow family, back to famous great cows too. And you put great cow families on great cow families, it's kind of hard to go wrong. If you were using this bull Joe ASHER, how would you think he would work, and what would he work good well on if you were using him in your herd?
You know, because of the strength that's associated with this herd and the medium-sized cows, I wouldn't be afraid to use him on many of the popular bloodlines. Of course, we got a lot of warriors out there. We got to worry a little bit about getting them too tall, and I think he would do that. You know, the one bull that we didn't really use on the family until later on was Rompin cross well on the altitude. So I'm wondering if that would the other way, that, you know, Archer would work well on the Rompins. So those are two that kind of come to mind, that there are, a lot of red animals out there sired by those two bulls.
Tim, would you like to talk a little bit about the All-American and Junior All-American nominations that this family's bred?
You bet. What a great discussion. Mike, I want to circle back to one thing, and Joe, I bet you'll agree. You look at the picture of Anna. When you see the flyer on this bull, we've got a big picture of Anna, and she's that long neck, long geared. But you talked about the King Lee leader in that pedigree, and Mike, you would remember that bull. But Jack and Vicky King in Maryland bred that bull, and I think King Lee leader was way in front of his time. At that time, most of the red cows were a bigger, stronger, woodier kind of cow, and he put that long refinement in him and a long neck and silky udders. And I think if King Lee leader were alive today, the bull would be one of the most popular bulls in the red business, because they were medium-sized cows that were wide enough. They would milk, but they looked like milk. And Joe, as you described Anna, I'm saying, my gosh, that's, she's got a lot of other bulls mixed in there, but she's King Lee leader from front to back. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And she looks so much like her. And what's really amazing, I don't have any scientific evidence to this, but it seems to me that a lot of times the fourth generation looks a lot like the first generation. And in Anna's case, we all know that the Adelina cow is a fourth generation from Anna. And so there again, the family just continues to breed on and on. It doesn't seem, what bulls we used on them seem to really do well, but no doubt about it, the altitudes were always our favorite. It was, altitude and kind of all the rest in our minds.
And that's why Mike and I have been so excited about this bull. Mike, when we made a list of our wish list cows, how long did it take us to put Anna on our list? But what we were afraid of, Joe, is that we have to be able to pass the paper test of these cows. The genetics are too good anymore. Back in my previous life, you could take a bull out of a cow like this with no numbers at all, and they'd sell. They don't do that today. And when we got this bull's genomic numbers back, Mike, and he's 3.1-ish for type, we were blown away. How does a cow that's 13 years old at the time we tested the bull, 14 today, got a son that's 3 points of type? There's something in the pudding there, isn't there?
Yeah, and the fertility and the cell count and all the things that we're looking for are good as well. I mean, it speaks volumes for something in that cow's coming through.
Right. As we talk about what the bull actually does, I think he is the epitome of that, and we'll talk more about that. Joe, I'm hoping we've got to divert just a little bit. I'm thinking about how you talked about 4 generations, and it goes back to the previous generations. I'm hoping with Harbaugh's kids that it'll just be 3, because maybe they'll be more like you down the road.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to listen to this, and I thought maybe that would be a good point. That
there you go.
Why his boys are such good kids is because it has to skip 3 generations in people, is my prediction.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
So as we talk about your family and the All-Americans, do you know, Joe, how many All-American nominations, Junior Open, you've bred from this great family?
Yes, I actually checked that out, and there was 25, and we think this year there should be 2 more nominations coming. There's 25 junior or already, counting Anna and all of her offspring.
Many of us, if we bred 5, we think we've done something. You've bred now 27 out of one branch of one family, or multiple branches of one family, but back to one tree. That, Mike, you've done this a long time and bred great cows. How significant is 25 All-Americans from? This isn't like the Roxys. We're not talking about 25 generations. We're talking about 2 and 3 generations.
Yeah, that's unheard of. We all go every year and try to come up with 2 or 3 nominations, and it's from very seldom is it out of more than one cow family, let alone all those nominations. It's pretty impressive.
Joe, this spring you had a sale at Hilrose, and kind of a way to slow down what you're doing a little bit. Tell us a little about the sale and some of the stories since the sale.
So we 220 live lots go across the shavings that day, and then plus some embryos and such. The first 100 in the catalog were all direct descendants of Anna. The sale itself averaged 4,500 on 220 lots. So very, very successful sale. both in the black and whites and the reds, I was really happy. We went to our local district show, which was only 6 or 7 weeks later. And of course, Tim, we got such phenomenal support from the surrounding counties around us. And when I went to that district show that day, the December calf class, 5 out of the top 9 were my calves, owned by other people. So really, really proud of that. It's one thing to talk about the All-Americans and all that, but the other thing that we sold a lot of calves out of Anna in many different sales, and all across the country, people have had, pretty good success, not maybe to be All-Americans, but really to have their kids be very successful at the county and the district show level is, and that's a lot of people, that's their big thing because they don't go to Expo. And if they can compete and do well at that level, it's pretty good. So, and since that, we've had, many people send us pictures of baby calves and such, and very rewarding to see that. And Audie actually was one of the altitudes was 3rd junior 4-year-old at Madison, and looks the part. And man, she looks better every day. So very, very rewarding.
And we think Anna family member probably will go across the shavings in Toronto at the Royal Winter Fair tomorrow. We're hoping we'll see some results from that. You want to talk a little about her, Joe?
Well, that's the Adelina cow. And, that's the other thing, of all the females we sold her in one of Quest for Success sale, and we got very, very nice money for her. And a young man bought her. And the nice thing about a lot of the cattle, they just keep on getting better. So a couple people down the road have all made very good money on it. And, we always talked about the Anna family, how we could get the really special ones. And we thought, well, even the ones that can't go out, about the least we get is a really, really nice milk cow. And so we had many daughters and granddaughters that scored well and made very, very nice records for us.
I think another area that we want to talk about, Mike, our listeners wouldn't know because they can't see Joe, but he sounds like he's about 30, but you're a little older than 30, Joe, and you've got some experience. What makes a great cow? What are the traits that those of us trying to breed cows need to have?
Tim, we've had very, very good success with a lot of high lifetime cows. And I look back at not only Anna, but those other breeds. The thing that I always look at, and some of them were different size and different shapes, but to me, being athletic and being able to, we had a tie stall barn, so they had to get up and down in the tie stall. That was so important to me. If they can't walk or if they can't get around, they're kind of useless, And if we great feet and legs and breed back ability, those are all things. We always talked about it because Anna's family bred back so quick. You're not afraid to put a more expensive shot of semen in them. And the cows that don't breed back, well, should I or shouldn't I? Use this bull on them. And the fertility and just to be really, really nice barn cows was because I don't care if they're in a freestall barn or parlor or tie stall barn, they still have to be as trouble-free as we can get them.
Really good advice to our listeners. And as I said, we try to bring out information like we're sitting on the Showbox, and those are conversations you'd have with people like you, Joe, that have done it all, seen it all, and had success doing it. One other thing before we finish up on the bull, Joe, I know you've got tremendous pride in your family. You want to tell us a little about your family and what they're up to?
Like you mentioned before, our daughter Sarah is married to Lynn Harbaugh, and very, very proud of those 3 kids up there. Man, they've kind of done it all, And Andy, our older son Andy, and we kind of kept it all in the family here. Andy's married to Bob Sable's daughter, and they were a big part of the operation, or still are. And then our son Jeff, married to Bonnie Brezowitz, and some of you older people would recognize the Ames family from down near Darien, Wisconsin, and that's Bonnie's grandpa, John Ames. All those kids have had a really, really nice summer showing at different shows, and we would have been a granddaughter of Anna was All Wisconsin Winter Calf this year. Andy and Jeff at this point are just kind of taking a little easy after the sale, and I suspect they'll be involved in a little different aspect of the industry as we go forward. Like you said, I'm to the point where I'm really enjoying a little less hectic pace.
Well earned and well deserved, and a great report on the family. Mike, you'll probably Logan will be playing baseball against some of his grandkids before long because I know they're into their sports for sure. So,
and Tim, right there is another lesson of a good top and bottom side of the pedigree goes a long way, even in people. When you go to Brantmeier's, they work hard, they play hard, and they got a great herd of cows. So it's I think it works there too.
yeah, who would have thought we'd give marital advice to people, Mike? On this podcast series, we may go big. We get out of the way, Oprah. We can do things like that too. We'll give good advice.
Absolutely,
Mike. As we talk about how to use bulls and what to do with them, talk a little bit about your vision of what you expect out of ASHER to make and who you'd use them on. Joe did a little of that. You want to follow up with a few of your thoughts?
Well, our thoughts, I mean, if you look at the altitudes and with Anna, I think the sisters to him, like we've talked about, they're long framed. They've got style. They got great feet and legs. They're athletic kind of cows that'll probably going to follow suit and last a long time. And like Joe had said earlier, I think the Rompums, the Showtimes, the Unstoppables, it's going to be a lot of these Hulus to breed coming down the pike here. I think when you look at this bull, you're going to say, well, he doesn't have a lot of milk, but we're dealing with a cow that's 14 years old. I think they'll milk just fine. It's just hard to get that to translate to paper. Use these bulls like Hulu and our bull Heritage and stuff on this kind of a bull. I think you're going to breed a good cow.
You said something that I want to go back to because when you look at this bull's numbers for production, milk-wise, they're underwhelming, as you would expect from this line of genetics. You can't take these three bulls in a row and expect you're going to have high milk PTAs. But 360,000 pounds of milk, 17,000 pounds of fat, and 12,000 pounds of protein. I am not worried about daughters of ASHER being productive animals, right?
Yeah, and you take the altitudes, they are milky 2-year-olds, and I don't think milk is going to be a problem.
And Joe, I go back to you on this. You raised a family, feeding your family and paying bills with milk out of cows. That's the way you did it? For how many years are you in this business?
Exactly, Tim. We, like I said, I'm not so sure that, they will always peak the highest, but what we really liked about the family, they were just so persistent. And, with that, I think comes the cows don't get so extremely thin and they breed back better because they have a very different, lactation curve. And so they're milking about as much, in the 8th and 9th month as they were early on.
And if you go to Brantmeier's, Mike, you're not going to question whether Joe made a living milking cows or not. Things look pretty darn nice around there and has some beautiful land. And so, I think that's the ultimate test. Can you pay the bills and make a living with your cows? And I think Hilrose is the perfect example of doing that. Sure, you've made a lot of money the past decade, Joe, on selling genetics. But before that, you put a lot of money in your pocket raising good feed and making milk, right?
Exactly. We just thought this was, you've been working at it for a long time. And I always thought that was the one thing for having registered cattle, that you always work for the goal to get one like Anna. And, in the last year, we've sold embryos and calves and many other things. And just kind of a little extra to do a few more things and just pay the bills.
Well, and just quickly, Joe, before we let Mike wrap it up, we haven't got the pictures made of the bull yet. Mike and I are going to see him next week when we're in Plain City. Tell us what the bull looked like when he left.
We were really excited when he left. We raised him kind of in the same barn, and people looked at him and said, "Man, it's too bad that's not a heifer." He would show very well. Very, very handsome, straight line bull. Reminded me an awful lot about Anna. He was just medium sized, but straight as an arrow and good legs, and just a very, very handsome bull.
Well, Mike, can you tell our listeners what our expectations are for how you get this bull and when?
The bull's available in the next 2 weeks here. You can get him from your Select Sires rep. He will be going through Showbox Sires with Select Sires as our distributor, and you might be able to get it right now.
If you hear this podcast, reach right out to your Select representative and have them get some. The other thing, Mike and I'll make sure that we get some semen to the IVF centers. If you want to try to make your September calves, there'll be ASHER semen at some of the big IVF centers so you can use them that way. And frankly, Mike, I've already used them on a couple red cows, and he fertilized the eggs well, and we have some eggs in the tank by ASHER coming already. Back to the reason we're doing this right now, we wanted to get this bull released by the middle of November so you can get him in your tanks and make September calves. Because I think ultimately, guys, we've talked a lot about how good these cows can be, how good Anna is. But Joe, you went back to how much fun it is to watch your grandkids and kids show cows and have fun. This family could do it. Like, think about if there's 25 All-Americans bred from this family before a bull went into a major AI unit, think about what could happen. Do you think this could be big?
We started our sale that day. I just said very, very few words, and I said the only reason to own cattle is to have a little fun and to make money. And I think this bull has the ability to do that. They're just a little bit different. You have a lot of red genetics that are maybe a little stronger, a little shorter necked or whatever. But this, if he breeds through like I think he can, he'll lengthen them out a little bit, put a little longer neck in them, and put some silk in them.
Can't wait till people see the pictures of the bull. The staff at Select, they say he's really pretty, and with all of the hype of Expo and Harrisburg and now Toronto, everybody's been quite busy, but we'll get pictures of the bull, Joe. Mike, you got any thoughts before you go about the bull?
We're really excited to get a chance to use this bull. This is as far as I know, this is the only bull out of Anna's family that's ever been into AI here, and I can't wait to use him. It's a pleasure to have Joe and his family involved. Goes way back, and certainly great people. We're looking forward to this bull.
A bull I failed to mention before was I really, really liked our Unstoppables, and I thought altitude Unstoppable cross would really do well. Those Unstoppables are pretty darn nice cattle, and I think maybe that would be another cross that would work pretty well.
Well, this has been a delightful discussion with Mike Duckett and Joe Brantmeier from Hilrose Holsteins, Hilrose Dairy, about the release of our next Showbox Sires bull, 744 HO 17546 ASHER Red. He is the exciting new red bull. We've wanted another one since we released Acetylene, and we think this bull can do a lot of fun things in the business. He is 3 points of type. As Mr. Brantmeier said earlier, Anna had great components. This bull is plus 19% fat, plus 10% protein. They've talked about the reproduction in the family. This bull has got a very solid DPR, just barely minus. And then the great feet and legs look like it come through. So everything you talked about, Joe, with the family, it looks like this bull picked a piece of. We're thrilled he will be available from Select Sires, and we thank you for joining us on this most recent issue of the podcast of the series, The Evolution of the Great Cow, through Showbox Sires.